We start off our show by first acknowledging the many lives that were lost on this day, September 11th, 23 years ago. Everyone here at College Football Live send our thoughts and prayers to those families and all who were and are still affected by this tragedy. Week 3 is quickly approaching, but Week 2 left us with memorable moments and even more changes in the AP poll. And Week 2 definitely shook up that poll. Notre Dame and Michigan took a tumble, dropping to 18th and 17th respectively. Tennessee is the biggest riser, moving up 7 spots, while we get new teams making their AP poll debut. And Boston College ranked in the AP poll for the first time since 2018. Bill O'Brien showing that it's good to be an Eagle. Pete, what are you thinking?
Victoria, there is a buzz locally here about Boston College, and the reason is quarterback Thomas Castellanos. Last year, Castellanos came off the bench in BC's opener. He had an uneven season. He had 15 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. I asked Bill O'Brien today, what's been the biggest part of Thomas Castellanos' development? He told me his footwork and his ability to read defenses. Simply put, Thomas Castellanos has been convicted in his decision-making. He now has 6 touchdown passes, no interceptions, and last season he led the nation in rushing touchdowns. He still brings that element, but there's a lot more to his throw game, which is why the Eagles find themselves ranked.
Yeah, Pete, I had the opportunity to spend some time in training camp at Boston College a few weeks back, and one of the things that Bill O'Brien said to me was, what Thomas Castellanos has learned how to do is be a pro. He's the first guy in the building, the last guy out in practice. He's walking with his script, going to spots on the field where they've got a third down or a second down or a first down. And the leadership qualities that he's now grown into have rallied the troops. I think another thing, he's done a really good job in the transfer portal. And this was a roster that was left in good place, I think, by the previous regime. But the transfer portal additions have helped them, and this could be an interesting matchup in Columbia, Missouri this weekend.
And talk about being a pro. That's a thing people forget a lot about. Oftentimes, everyone talks about bringing in players from the transfer portal, from the outside in. What if you could get better from the inside out? That's what being a pro is. It's studying your film. It's going to sleep on time. It's eating the right things, drinking the right things. It's being essentially like a coach on the field. That's what we're seeing from Castellanos. That's why Boston College has improved so much.
That consistency and composure is everything now. The ACC and Big 12 looks open for the taking. We've got 3 undefeated teams leading the pack in the ACC, while the Big 12 is showing its depth with 7 teams sitting pretty at 2-0. But Big 12 conference play is just kicking off this weekend with TCU versus UCF. Which conference is more wide open, Pete?
Well, I think you have to say the Big 12 right now. I think Miami has really performed where they have distanced themselves to be the favorite. It's not over, certainly, but they're the favorite. By my count, Victoria, I think 6 different teams can still win the Big 12. I'm going to put Kansas in there, even though they lost the other night. Kansas State obviously plays Arizona in a non-conference matchup. I think both of those teams can still win it, along with Iowa State, Utah, and obviously Oklahoma State.
Pete, I find it to be pretty wide open as well in the Big 12, and here's the reason why. You mentioned Miami, but you also got to look at Clemson, and the reason why I say that is I don't see a team in the Big 12 that is Miami or Clemson up front on either side of the football. That's what makes those 2 teams different, in my opinion. I think the quarterback play throughout the Big 12 is really, really good. You've got a lot of competitive depth top to bottom in the conference overall. As with the ACC, it's interesting because NC State and Virginia Tech have underwhelmed, while Syracuse and Pitt and BC have risen to the occasion. Even Virginia is sitting there at 2-0 going into this weekend. But I think that the Big 12 is anybody's race, and November is going to be a ton of fun to watch.
Well, that's why I would say that the ACC is probably just as, if not more, wide open, because just a few weeks ago, everyone had written off Clemson. Oh, there's no way. Look how they lost to Georgia. Now, all of a sudden, they put up 50-plus points at halftime. K Klubnik set records, 5 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and everyone's like, oh, wow, Clemson is the favorite. Last year, people thought that Miami would have no chance. And yes, they had a great game against Florida, but Florida's really down. They've been down for a while, and so Miami may be tested. No, by the way, we talked about it. Pitt has a player by the name of Des Reed, who transferred from Western Carolina, who is an actual problem, like a quadratic equation. He's legit. And so that's what Pitt has. Pitt has an opportunity to really surprise some people. So for me, I think the ACC has a couple sleeper teams with these teams at the top that may be able to be got.
All right, Luke, real quick.
What happens if Pitt has to face Clemson? because you need to get a note from your mother to play that defensive front for Clemson.
I got one. I got one.
Now.
Don't worry, Luke. I got one. All right, we're going to take a quick break. I got one.
Good.
Don't worry.